Hello, everybody, and welcome to a wonderful, wonderful new episode of That Tom Clancy Show. It is so wonderful to see all of your shining, smiling faces, especially Bad Idea Bry. He's my guy. You may have seen it last night on Twitter that he is pretty much my hype man. I'm not going to say exactly what he was hyping, but trust me, it's going to be good. We've got another really cool show for you today. And if you didn't see the post I did last night, this is like a big old week of shows. But for today, all those shows don't matter. What matters is that I have another cool independent developer on the show. So, some of you may know I've kind of become the quasi official podcaster for the whole Pitch Your Game initiative. And as such, I get to see some pretty interesting games and developers. Now, last week, Team Pig, Pitch Your Game, launched a new hashtag with the Pitch Your Game Black Lives Matter. This was to do our own small part to really just bring more attention to Black developers all across the world. Today, I'm happy to introduce the first of many of those developers that took part in this new hashtag. Our guest today is a young developer. He is one of the many people who was brave enough to throw their game out onto the internet for everyone to see. So without further ado, Bits and Pixels, may I present Nick Chowa. I hope that I pronounced his name correctly, because otherwise I will feel like an asshole. Was that
You're close enough. Chowa, but you
Chowa?
almost
Okay.
got it. Almost
I
got it. Yeah.
Names suck, man. No.
Fair enough.
So, welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, you were. We were talking a little before the show as we were getting everything all set up. Nick is officially my first American guest.
I'll wear that with pride. Let's be honest.
Yeah, like how crazy is this? I've been doing this show now for like 6 weeks, and literally everybody who has been a guest so far has been from all the way on the other side of the Atlantic.
Ooh,
Yeah, yeah.
actually pretty amazing. And a
You know,
coincidence.
but welcome to the show. I hope the garage is to your liking. Uh, it gets a little warm in the summer, but thankfully, I'm up in Wisconsin, so things stay pretty cool until, well, usually about now. So I don't know what's going on, but next week I'll start melting, which will be interesting. So yeah, well,
That Wisconsin heat, my guy.
yeah, well, I mean, like I'm an East Coaster, so I'm originally like, because you're in North Carolina, if memory serves, right?
Oh, yeah, and it's rain all the time right now. I don't even want it.
I can fully understand that. As I said a moment ago, I grew up in Maryland, so like just 2 states north of you. So I don't quite get the
Oh,
heat, but I understand the humidity.
yeah. Worst part is I have a dog now, and he's new. We've had him for like a year. So usually I just stay inside, but I kind of don't have that sort of leeway because he always wants to go take a walk, and of course I'm the default person that has to go take him. So
Yeah, yeah. Dogs. What can I say? They're adorable and lovely. My across the street neighbors just got a black lab puppy like 6 months ago, and I love that silly dog. He
so cute.
came running across the street yesterday to come say hi to us, which I thought was just ridiculous. And
Aww.
his owners are like yelling like, "Swanson, stop doing that!" And I'm like, of course, like, "Oh, how's it going, buddy? Who's a good dog?" So very clearly, I think I was wrong, but great little dog. So, how have you been, man? Like, I imagine that, last week was kind of crazy with the whole like new hashtag initiative. And I know from my perspective, I think the first day that Liam pitched the updated hashtag, I reached out to probably about a dozen or so developers. You were one of the first to get back to me, so you got this prime first day slot.
Oh, that's great. I just Liam's a friend of mine, and he recommended me for the show, and I wanted to do him proud. So I was like, I'm totally down for it. Sounds fun. Let's try and get some eyes out there and do something important.
Yeah, that's it's one of those things where I struggle to find where I can be helpful in arenas like this. But moments like this where I can use my powers for good to help amplify and spread the word for others, that's when I feel like I've actually managed to do something. So I feel that it is my responsibility to help spread just awareness and the make sure that be the megaphone to help other people's voices be heard.
I feel that. That's also why I'm part of Team Pig, because I felt the same way that you did.
Yeah,
Just I don't
I'm
have as big a voice as you, but I did want to make sure I could like help other people get their game seen, and that's why when Liam invited me on, I was all gung ho about it.
Well, I'm still working on getting my voice out there. Thankfully, I've got a couple good hype men and women out there in the audience. Thank you. I love you all very much. Except for Bad Idea Bry. I don't love him. I adore him. Uh, he's a good friend of mine from Toronto. We've been internet friends for years, and we became like real friend. Like we actually met in 2014, if memory serves. Was he came down when I was living in Chicago, and we got lunch and stuff. It was fun. So yeah, he's good people. Um, Good guy to have in your corner if you need a hype man. Just saying. Uh, but so really, without further ado, let's kind of just get right into it. Let me just adjust my monitor here so I can read things. All right, cool. Look, I have to cheat when I live in this garage as a robot person, okay? So, let's see. We looking over my list. We've done the welcome to the show bit. So, all right, cool. One thing off there. We also have so your game, The Way the World Ends.
Yep.
Tell us about
Oh boy. All right. So also, friends have always said that I have a problem with rambling, so feel free to, if I go on too long or start going on a tangent, to cut me off.
it. Well, let
But
me just say that if there was an American Olympic team for rambling, I might be your team captain.
fair enough. Fair enough.
So that's your fair warning.
All right. So the way the world ends, as a like quick synopsis, is about a group of students that find themselves mysteriously transported to this sort of weird topsy-turvy alternate dimension with a lot of their memories missing. And the character Nick, who is me but like self-insert, uh kind of trying to guide them out and back to their own world as they also try and recover their memories and figure out who they are. And I that's sort of like a very bare bones synopsis, and it doesn't sound that new or exciting, but this I had a story I really wanted to tell, and kind of don't want to spoil it, which is why I kind of had to make that sort of more boring synopsis of sort of the starting point of everything. Where the game really shines is mostly the battle system, as I tried to come up with something more unique. Well, didn't try, but was sort of forced to due to limitations. This game sort of means a lot to me because it's sort of this end of an era type deal where it was based on a comic I did. For those of you in the audience, please don't go read that. It was terrible. I started when I was in high school, but I kind of did it for a long, long time. And as I sort of grew up and stopped, like, figured out about myself and started being more mature and stuff, so did the comic as it sort of got better, got more well thought out, stopped being dumb, edgy jokes from when I was a teenager and started being more clever stuff with some dumb jokes in there. Let's be honest, I never changed.
There's always room for dumb jokes. As I've been starting to reach out to more developers and stuff, I've started falling back on an old kind of dumb joke that I used to do when I would work in teams, which would be like, "Hey, does anybody have any questions, comments, dirty jokes?" Nobody expects the dirty jokes part. So sorry that I had not fully refined my technique by the time I reached out to you. But for next time, because I imagine there will be a next time we'll have you on here, I'll be sure to add that bit in. So that's actually something I wanted to talk about too. Was this idea of the adaptation? Like very clearly, this is a story that has resonated with you for a long time.
Yeah. So like I was saying, it was a passion project, and when the comic ended, even before the comic, when the comic was nearing its end, I had this idea of like, since the comic, like I said, was terrible, and it was a lot of me just like making it up as I went along, lots of in jokes. It was a thing of passion and love for me, but it was also like I can tell, like that's not my sort of self, you know, my low self esteem. That's more just objectively the comic was bad, but like it was such a thing that meant a lot to me. So as the comic was ending, and I was like, this is going to be it for me. Like once this is done, like I'm done with this story and I'm gonna move on. Was like, let me have one last hurrah where I take some of the strings and just plot threads that I left open because I either forgot about them or whatever. Now the great storyteller once again, and just try and wrap them up in a nice little bow. This is this is its own standalone story. You don't need to know you don't need to read the comic in order to understand it, and that's sort of by design because I don't want anybody to have to put themselves through that. But I
It's
also
very
did want to
considerate.
have this. Thank you. I also did want to have like something to like wrap off my time with this. And then like the game engine I'm using is being discontinued. The story was over. I was moving on and like putting the story in the hands of other people, good friends of mine. And I was so this was supposed to be sort of the last hurrah, the magnum opus of this overarching story just contained in this one little game, this passion project. And I expected it to take like maybe a year or two, and now I'm going on like 3 years of making this thing, and I'm like, I bit off way more than I could chew, but I'm
Well, I
dedicated to seeing
mean,
this thing through to the end.
you're one guy.
Yeah.
It's earlier you mentioned that part of your game design process has been informed by limitations, which is why I'm here. It's real easy to slap a person's face on a mannequin and post, as opposed to trying to, you know, fly people places for a talk show. And it's a lot cheaper too. I don't have to
Yeah.
fly you anywhere. You get to stay home. I get to sit in my
Great point.
garage.
Especially with this whole COVID thing happening. So
Oh, this is like the best time to be launching like a video podcast in its own weird way. Like don't get me wrong, I wish this wasn't happening because like I like to, I don't know, go places. Um, but at the same time, I appreciate that we live in an era where we are so connected. Like I mean, 20 years ago, I could not have as easily made some of the friendships that I've made simply because we didn't have access to things like Twitter. I mean, yeah, we had, AIM and message boards and stuff, but that all sucked, you know. There's an immediacy to social media now that we didn't have back then.
I
So,
feel like such a zoomer when when I hear AIM again.
I remember when it wasn't a standalone program and you had to have an America Online subscription to use it.
I
So,
remember when they gave 3 subscription discs and they were in like cereals.
oh man, they were everywhere. I mean, it's like you had to work to not trip over an America Online disc. I mean, there's that ongoing joke that historians in the future are going to find all of these America Online discs and be like, "Oh, this must have been some treasured relic, or how they paid for soup," you know. But hey, it is what it is. Um, but before we ramble on too much about America Online, which I could do all day, um, for better or worse, really, you now I'm gonna be honest. I haven't had the opportunity to play your game. Um, I've kind of been reading too much like the last few days. I mean, there's no such thing as reading too much, but I've been reading a lot the last like week. Um and yeah. So uh I lost my train of thought there for a second. One second, guys.
Take your time.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So it is a turn-based RPG,
Yeah,
but everybody has their own like kind of different style of play in that their abilities are tied to these like mini games, right?
that's correct. Yeah.
Um that's so that's you working within the limitations of what you can do is making more work for yourself.
Uh, okay, when you put it like that, it doesn't sound the best. But it was like I just want to make a traditional, turn-based RPG, and it was like I can't really make a level system that would do what I wanted to do. Okay, then let's take out the level system. Let's not do that. Let's have it be skill-based then. Like your leveling up is that you're getting better at using these characters. I can't make because I did want to like do like armor sets and stuff, like equipable items and weapons and armor. And I realized I couldn't do that without really messing up the balance of the game. And I was like, then let's not do that. Sort of the mini games were a way of still making it have a difficulty curve, but you have all the tools you need from the beginning. Your whole thing is just you need to get good at it.
Kind
And
of like
also,
with
yeah.
the most recent Legend of Zelda, where it's like you have all of the tools you're ever going to get within the first couple hours of the game, and you could go fight Ganon right then if you wanted to, in a weird way,
Mm-mm.
which was, hey, it was great for speedrunners. It was not good for me. That did not work out well.
Fair.
Goodbye, Link. Let's see. Break for Turtles says that you love to give yourself work. Don't you dare deny it. I'm gonna
Thank you
guess
all.
that there is a bit of a connection between you two there.
Yeah, a friend of mine. He
Okay. Well, hey,
called me out on the
thanks for coming
podcast.
out. Nice to have you here. I'll be doing more of these all this week, and like glad to have Nick here today. But I got other people too. They're also very interesting. So you feel free to hang out, stop by, all that stuff. And somewhere around me, there's a cat, and I'm getting slightly paranoid. And thank you for that follow. Did you see how I shamelessly worked for that follow there?
Gotta say, you got a silver tongue. No wonder you run a podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Look, man, a friend of mine said I had a great face for radio, so uh, do what I can. Uh, yeah.
Ah, you caught me off guard with that one. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Uh,
Welcome to the show, people. My humor is very self-deprecating, and I do my best to make my guests look good. So
oh man,
I
you'd be great on
apologize.
my
Uh, hey, yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is that my show is not for me to talk about myself, except when I do. Uh, my show is to talk about you and get people excited about you. So yeah. Uh, that said, I'll be here all week. So. What else do we have here? So, what were like kind of like your influences moving forward with this game? Because like from the sound of it, I'm gonna take a guess here, but are you an anime fan?
podcast. Yeah, no,
Like,
spot on that one.
okay, I'm not trying to, like just stereotype anime fans here, but that's an
Yeah.
anime kind of sounding story.
Yeah, no. The funny enough, the inspiration for the story was an anime. But when you say that, like, yeah, it does definitely sound anime as hell. So
I
can't
mean,
really deny
that's
that.
fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of very good anime out there. I've even watched a few of them. No, it's funny, because it is interesting to see the different generations of anime too, because it's, when I grew up, it was very much a lot of like, Akira was the work that got a lot of my generation into anime. And then from Akira, we all kind of like, some people went the Gundam Wing route. I went the significantly more obscure Pat Labor route, because it was the 90s. You watched what you could get your hands on. There was no Crunchyroll back in the day. Back in my day, no. I need a black and white filter ready to go for something like that whenever I start going off on an old man rant. So, um, but yeah, sorry, influences on the work. I made a joke there.
Nah. I think the, the best and biggest was that the point of this game was to get to know characters better. Characters from the comics that maybe didn't get the spotlight that I thought that they deserved. Because once again, I was making the comic up as I went along. So like I'd have this big laid out plan for this character, and then immediately get distracted with, "Oh, this is a cool idea," and immediately go in that direction. And this character like got like 2 pages, and this was sort of my way of trying to give those characters more spotlight. And I wanted you to get to know and love these characters. And what I had in mind when I was thinking that was like, I think when I started Fire Emblem Awakening had just come out and I just gotten it, and the I forget what they're called, but when you get to know like fight with a character and they sort of have these conversations in between, and that's how you level them up and eventually like get into a relationship with them. There's no relationships, but I had that idea of like getting to know these characters, getting to love these characters, getting to understand these characters. Each one has their own like little arc within the story, and just then I had to sort of make a story around that. Like, what would be my excuse for you having to get to know these characters?
Right.
And sort of
Well,
everything fell from there.
I kind of want to just pop in right now and say I'm very glad that you had the restraint to not give yourself additional work by eliminating character relationships. So
Yeah.
well done. Well done. Uh,
Thank
you never go full BioWare,
you. Oh
you know,
boy, yeah.
unless you're full BioWare, and it's Mass Effect 2. Morton Solos is my boy. Dude, I love that guy. But Garrus, he's like if I had a space best friend, Garrus would be my space best friend.
All right.
Just I
Unfortunately,
mean, he's great. You know.
unfortunately, when I got into Mass Effect, it was the third one, which everybody didn't like,
No,
apparently.
no,
So,
not everybody. I liked it. It was E3 2011 was when they showed that game off, and Casey Hudson did my demo, and I went up afterwards because I'm sitting in like the back of the room, and like I got in on like a wing and a prayer kind of thing. And I walked up to Casey Hudson and I just like shook his hand and I gave him a hug and I was like, thank you. I found out several years later that he's not really a hugger and he didn't really appreciate that. So, Casey Hudson, if you're watching, I'm really sorry in that way where I'm like not really sorry. Like, I'm sorry I violated your personal space, but at the same time, like, I needed to give you that hug. So I'm sorry. Just know that
aw,
it came from a place of love. So, um,
sweet.
but yeah, no, if if you ever want to hear long ramblings on the ending of Mass Effect 3, I will send you some links after the
Oh,
show.
no.
So there was a podcast I was on at the time that came out, and we would always start on like normal news, but then about 5 minutes in, it became the three of us fighting about the ending of Mass Effect 3.
Oh no, you have the exact opposite problem of my podcast where we start with a topic but then we just meander out into whatever. So
Oh,
I
I
can
mean,
understand.
sure, yeah. I mean, did you watch last week's episode with Paul and we talked about Hellboy for like 15 minutes? It was excellent. Oh, good times, good times. So how was just see that love that segue right back into it. How has your experience been with the hashtag? Like, has it been generally positive for you? I mean, aside from this wonderful, wonderful interaction we're having right
Right. No, it's been good, and okay, that doesn't sound very reassuring. It's been good,
now.
question mark. But no, it's really has been good. I've been sort of I've had the chance to become a part of the team, to get to meet new people, to get to meet people who have the same interests. Some that are way more experienced in the field than I am, definitely considering I'm self-taught. And just being in a place of my peers where I can like learn something and also help people that I think like, wow, this dude's work is really good, way better than mine ever is. Like, how does he not have more eyes on him? And being able to help get more eyes on him, like that sounds like a really good time. And I was right behind Liam when he like invited me. And Liam's a good friend. Like he
He's good
really
people.
helped me. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how or when I became internet friends with him, but here we are. Like it's just because when I had him on the show about a what has it been now, like a week and a half or so, no, like 2.5 weeks ago. uh it just kind of started as this, like, just talking about the hashtag, trying to get the kind of drum up some extra support and visibility on it. And lo and behold, I didn't even need to do that because, like, so according to the metrics, they got a lot of views.
Yeah.
um, and I don't have the metrics offhand for any of the more recent stuff. And even if I did, I'm not entirely positive that either A, I'm supposed to have those metrics, or B, supposed to talk about the metrics. But I just asked him, I was like, do you mind if I reach out to some of these people? And then it kind of grew into, now I just podcast for the Team Pig guys. So cool. uh
But
you
you're
know
doing good work.
Yeah,
You're doing definitely good
I try to, like, because I mean, it's the first round. There were all so many interesting games, and several of them are coming onto the show. And I mean, like, some really cool stuff. And then too, it's but with the Black Lives Matter version of the hashtag, we get to see all of these different projects from people who just, unfortunately, in the industry, don't have the voice that they should.
good.
And it's, and it sucks because there are so many great stories out there that aren't being told. Because, like, aside from what, maybe two Call of Duty games, all the stories are generic and boring. I mean, like, the first Modern Warfare, like, that had one of the best campaigns ever. But there's the art that we are generally receiving is not being informed by the diversity that truly lives in our world. And by not getting that diversity, we are doing ourselves a big disservice, on top of alienating people whose voices we should be hearing.
Just
Thank
just
you.
gonna give you a round of applause for
Thank
that
you.
one.
But it's absolutely the way it's the truth from my perspective, because our lives are made better by hearing the stories of others. And I don't just mean, fiction or poetry. I just mean, by having people in our lives who are different from ourselves, we become better people. And in part, we need that as well. We definitely need it in movies and television and books, and even more so in video games. Because I mean, it's just take just as Americans, we have this fairly heroic idea of war. It's ingrained in our society because for whether it's actually true or not, we have the sense that we have saved the world on multiple occasions. But conversely, if you look at the developers for This War of Mine, war for them is an entirely different uh, uh,
Yeah,
just
it's a
thing. Thematically, it's
harsh.
completely different. There's no heroism to it,
Yeah,
and it's that difference in voice on similar things that creates a more complete human experience. as you can tell, treat my video games or think of my video games uh, a lot and very deeply about it. So, and it's, kind of circling back to the beginning of the show, I'm now like, I'm doubling down on my effort to make sure that more new voices get out there because one, it means that I'm getting better games because, you know, awesome. And who doesn't want better games? And two, it means everyone else gets better games. Like before today, with the exception of your friend who did you say his name was Will?
Yeah,
Yeah. Hi, Will. With the exception of your friend Will out there in the audience, nobody else knew who you were. Or, few people will say few knew who you were. And, it's now, hopefully you get some new internet friends out of this whole deal. And then on top of that, hopefully it helps drive some more traffic for the way the world is, you know?
that's the hope. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really kind of like the last big question is now that you have this kind of like bonus uh, publicity, I feel is the wrong word, but like this bonus word of mouth. And as much as I also hate using this word, exposure. Um, you know, what's next?
Well, I think continuing to work and polish the game and move on with it because I do still need to finish it. I just have like a demo, not even like a prototype out right now. Is get us to a playable state and go full speed ahead and hopefully grow an audience from there. And then maybe once I do have enough of an audience, then do the same thing you're doing. Use my voice to be able to highlight smaller creators, hopefully in the future.
Oh yeah. I wish that I had hand gestures right now because I'd be giving you a big old thumbs up. So just know that this hand is a thumbs up right now, even though it's
Glad to hear. Glad to hear it.
yeah. Hey, Gavin, we need hand gestures next show. What do you mean you can't get it done? Right, you're fired. Nobody tell Gavin he's not actually here. He's not actually fired. So, oh man, I'm trying to think. I feel like we've covered just about everything that I wanted to talk about. Audience, any questions from you? How dare you tell Gavin, Brian? How dare you? You are now only the second best hype man. And also, I missed this earlier, but hi, Andrew. Uh, I try and say hello to everybody. You know, so audience, if you have any questions, feel free to get those in the chat. And then if it's like a decent question, I'll be sure to pass it along. Otherwise, Nick, is there anything that you would like to cover that I may have missed? Uh,
Hmm.
you have a great
I'm
pensive look,
looking.
by the way.
Thank you. I'm thinking. There's a lot in the game that I want. I have a story that I want to tell, and more than anything, what I'm looking for isn't like fame or fortune. I'm not looking to come out of this as some big name, bigwig game developer after this. What I want is just to have a story that might touch your hearts, and if you just learn to get to learn to love these characters the same way that I do, I'd honestly be happy with that. I hope that my story reaches people and empowers people and helps them out because I feel like my story does have a message that makes it worth telling, and I hope that people do see that, and that's why I want to get as many eyes as I can on it.
Nice. Now I do have we have a couple questions from the audience, and you guys, good questions. Thumbs up hand. Uh, you'd mentioned that the engine you were using is getting discontinued. What are you using?
I use the Blender game engine, the Blender's internal game engine, and you know that at the time of switching over from 2.79 to 2.8, they discontinued the game engine and focused more on the grease pencil, which I love the new grease pencil. But considering I've been using the Blender game engine for like like middle school, so years and years and years. That was kind of like sad for me, but I was going to quit it anyways after this game and finally switch to Unity, which is a much more widely used engine.
I
So
mean, I would like to preface this statement by saying that I do not in any way get compensated by the people I'm about to evangelize for. But have you ever considered Unreal Engine?
I have. Actually, a friend of mine, I don't know if I should even be like doing this, but I'm shouting out a different friend on your podcast. I'm sorry.
Go for
I
it,
hope
man.
this doesn't get me banned. But if anybody knows about the Long Way Home, they're having a demo out called Ruth's Story, and they switched from the Blender game engine. We all became friends because we all used the Blender game engine, and they switched over to Unreal. So they have that sort of knowledge. Uh, but reason I didn't is because I already have so many like Blender to switching over from Blender to Unity, like books and tutorials and stuff like saved up. And now I'm just like, well, I've already spent money and stuff on this over the years. I might as well use it. So
Well, there's a lot of good free resources out there for the Blender to Unreal pipeline. Just saying.
maybe, I mean, I got friends I can ask if I ever need
Yeah.
help.
I mean,
But
if you didn't recognize the Unreal hands. But all right. So now that I have finished evangelizing, first question we have from good old Bad Idea Bry. If you could go back to your younger self, what would you say to him to keep his spirits up to reach this point today?
oh man, um, you're gonna have so much fun with it and learn so much from this. So you're going to get discouraged. You're going to get just fed up. You're going to get bored so many times. But in the end, you have a story worth telling and you should tell it because it's going to teach you so many things and you're going to learn and grow from this. Same as your comics, same as your game.
Hell yeah, man. It's a great answer. You get 5 rupees for that answer. I don't know what they will be useful for, but you've got them. Uh, next question from Will. Which part of the game are you most proud of? And if there was one thing in the game that you could change, what would it be? I feel like he has probably has some form of insight in this. Is this a leading question, Will? We don't do leading questions on this show, Will. Yes, we do. But oh god, I found the cat. He's trying to get on my lap.
Oh
Hold on.
no.
Where are you? You were just here a second ago. I should really put a tracker on him and have have a cat model that just walks around the show as he's here.
Oh no. All right, could you
Gavin, add that to the list of
repeat
things
that
to add later.
question?
Repeat the question. Which part of the game are you most proud of? And if there was one thing that you could change, what would it be?
Probably the game am I the most proud of?
Now, while you're thinking about that, for everybody who's just joining us, I'm sitting down with Mr. Nick Chowa. He participated in last week's hashtag Pitch a Game Black Lives Matter, and we're talking about his game, The Way the World Ends. So, yeah, 100% add a cat model. I'm working on it, Andrew. I'm working on it. I got to get my elbows back first.
All right.
One thing at a time.
All right. So I guess if there's one thing that I'm super proud of, it is the battle system because of its sort of uniqueness. It makes it hard to sort of describe my game to people sometimes, but it's also like it's also one of those things where I feel like being creative around my limitations made something like wholly unique and fun to play, and I'm really proud of how that worked out. But I know balancing this later is going to be a nightmare. But if there's one thing I could change, it would be to have learned uh my animation earlier because I there was a lot of problems with and there's still a lot of problems with animations. My game is held together by duct tape, 2 cents in a dream, if I'm being honest, and a lot of them are animation issues. But I'm getting better. But like a lot of a lot of my bug fixing is me having to go back and just like redo parts of the game in order to work better and smoother. And I'd be like, I'd be so much further if I didn't have to do that like every other update. So
Well, I would just like
definitely
to
better.
remind you that duct tape 2 cents in a dream got the Apollo 13 astronauts back to Earth. So, excellent construction materials. Just wanted to throw that one out there. Another good, well thought out answer. Andrew asked, what has been the most difficult part about making your game?
I kind of have two answers for this, and I don't know which one to choose.
Well, then give us both.
uh, First one would be um, no, don't leave me now. Come on, what was it? I was gonna say first one would be the frustration with all the bugs, and it's it's always frustrating when you have to like look at all the code and stuff, and you're like, but this is right, so I don't understand why it's doing this, and how much that just drives you mad. And I think I have one dev log that's nothing but me just like cursing verbatim because I'm that just frustrated at everything and I needed to like vent. It's not even like anything constructive, like any bug fix. It's just me cursing at like all the bugs, like the entire video.
Yeah, I've done
And
that.
I think the other thing has left me, and I've already forgotten now. So I guess I'll just stick with that one answer because I already forgotten what the other answer was.
Yeah, in a former life, I was a quality assurance analyst for Midway Games and high voltage software. So believe me, I understand you with bugs. My personal favorite were always the by design won't fix. Uh, you're not allowed to send it back to the designer with design bad fix. But
I
uh,
remembered my other thing now.
all right, well, you see, look
Just
at
because of
this.
that.
I'm helping.
Nah, it was oh, please don't leave me again. I literally just remembered. It was what was it? It was that the game had like a lot of problems with once again the animation software. And god, it's leaving me again and I literally just remembered it and I'm mad at myself now. But the hardest thing other than like cursing at all the bugs was that I went on an art hiatus. Thank God. I was like, don't put me on the spot like this and then forget again. I think I burned myself out in terms of art, and all that's really left to do in the recent prototype before I can move on to finally like properly working on the game is like art assets. And because I had like the worst art block because I was so burnt out, like I didn't work on the game like for a year. And I've just recently finally like pushed through that art block and I'm finally making art again. So but now I'm like I have so much art like stuff to do and it's gonna take a while. And that's like sort of the second hardest part. But that's what happens when you're a one man team. You have to do the music, you have to do the art, you gotta yada yada
Mm-hmm. There are subscription services that can help you with the music. Uh, all right, we've got another. Oh yeah. Speaking of one man teams, my guy, Bad Idea Bry, uh, is a independent filmmaker, uh, and he has released a couple of one man shorts because of
Oh
the whole like pandemic thing, and
yeah, that
it
makes sense.
yeah is kind of so he understands. And just going off of some of the stuff, like, dude, you know how I feel. I've already talked to you about it, but sometimes there is a lot, necessity is the mother of invention, you know. Of course, I feel like the person who coined that phrase never had to do something as complex as build a video game. uh, when they came up with that sentence, they were probably all like, yes, I need to I don't know, wipe my butt, but I don't want to do it with my hand. What if I use some paper? That's it. It's toilet paper. You know. And that guy's all like, necessity is the mother of invention. I have created toilet paper. And then, yeah, like, shut up, guy who invented one thing. You know. Ah. All right. There's one last question here in the chat. It's from Will. Nick, what is your favorite aspect of the game?
Like favorite aspect?
Mm-hmm.
Let me hear that. The characters, because the characters are so like near and dear to my heart that it's always a good time being able to talk to them, getting to write for them. Sorry, getting to talk to them. I wish I could, but being able to get to write for them and just flesh out these things and sort of plan their character arcs, and that's always the most enjoyable part. Like just thinking like, let me throw these in. Okay, what are their relations? Like, how would they interact with each other? Like, how would I write for this person? What is he like good at? And sort of like going from there. And it's so much fun. Like right now, I only have 4 out of the planned 16 characters, and even then, just writing when those 4 bicker with each other is some of the most fun parts of writing. And I'm not a good writer. I'm not a writer at all, but just it's such a fun part of the process. I really love these characters, and I'm hoping that y'all get to as well.
Well, I have to call this one out in the chat here. How happy is that? Is that it? Look, guys, reading in a VR headset is terrible. Was that Happy Fack? Happy Fack says he had a chance to say his favorite aspect was the ratio, and it took me a moment, but when I got it, I'm just like, "Don't laugh, Thom. Don't laugh. Your guest is saying something important right now." So
Fair, fair.
yeah, all right. Well, that is our questions from the audience, as well as all the questions I had prepared, except for the 5 questions. So,
All right.
to everybody who's here for the first time, the 5 questions are 5 questions that I ask my lovely guests that have generally absolutely nothing to do with what we've been talking about for the last while and have no real bearing on anything. They're really just there for me to have a litmus test on people's ability to just answer stupid questions that have no bearing on anything. So, 5 questions. Number 1. The Rebel Alliance has called you and needs you to be their next fighter pilot ace. Which Rebel fighter are you jumping in?
X-wing,
Okay, cool.
definitely.
Good answer. I would have also accepted a stolen Imperial TIE Interceptor. That's my answer because those things were the best. Look, that question may have just happened because Squadrons was officially announced today.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. Number 2, sunglasses at night, yes or no?
That depends. Am I going to a party?
I mean, that's up to you. Are you going to a party?
All right. If no, if I'm not going to a party, then no, because it's impractical. However, if I'm going somewhere and I want to look cool, like, come on.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. This is gonna be a nice simple one. Carolina or Texas style?
Carolina, what?
I think
Leave me
you
in the
know
cook
what I
later, but
mean.
forget Texas.
Whoa. Shots fired, sir. Look, man, it's all about that Texas brisket. Just saying. Just saying. Number 4. Who is your favorite author?
Ooh. Road doll.
Huh. That is a great answer.
I
I gotta
grew up
be
with those
honest.
books.
I gotta be honest. I don't think I've ever actually read any Roald Dahl. Um, but like I didn't read a lot as a kid. Uh, but I would guess I would say the equivalent Roald Dahl thing for me would be like Final Fantasy 2. So, you know, but yeah, hey man, everybody's got a blind spot with reading, you know. I'm sure
It's
you
fair.
had,
It's fair.
well, no, I'm not sure, but I imagine you may not have read James S.A. Corey's wonderful works of The Expanse.
No, you got me there.
You absolutely should. I read like 20 books a year, so it's like, you know, and I'm like the slow reader in my group of like my reading group. So, all right. Last question. You have successfully navigated the first four. So, um, if I were to send you some cash, could you ship me some cheer wine?
You know what? Yeah, but you'd have to pick up the tab for shipping as well.
I
Yeah,
figured that
I
would be
figured.
involved in the price. All right, cool. Another wonderful answer. To YouTube comments count as books. Uh, uh, some of them do. Oh, God. That is like the craziest question I've ever seen. And if Cheerwine is so good, man, like yeah, you can't get it in Maryland, but we know of it. Um, and I'm no stranger to the North Carolina. So whenever I'm there, I make a point of getting as much Cheerwine as I can. Because it's what like for people who don't know, it's like it's a black cherry soda, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it's delicious. It's amazing. There's a great barbecue place in Chicago called Lily's Q, and is that the one thing? Yeah, yeah, Lily's Q. They have a supply of cheer wine. It's amazing. I mean, like it's just cheer wine, but it's just great that somebody up in like the Midwest and that far north has cheer wine. So, since that's my 5 questions, that's all the questions I had for you. Gavin is off working on getting the cat pipeline sorted out. Uh, is there anything else that you have before we bid our adieus and do all of that fun stuff?
Let me think. Uh, please support this show and other creators and use your voice, as small as it can be, to help uplift people instead of tearing them down. And Black Lives Matter. Don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I will.
Oh,
And
hell yeah, you're allowed to
that's it
say
for me.
that. Like you are absolutely allowed to say that on my show. I say it on on my Twitter account pretty much. Well, maybe not daily, but you know, uh, uh, I did my wonderful when the protests all started. It was like, look, just there's no ambiguity here. Black Lives Matter. It's because this is the absolute truth. You know, yeah. But well, so Nick, thank you so much for being on the show. Virtual hug. No, virtual high five. Dude, I can't wait
Thanks.
until I can give people high fives again. I can't wait. It's gonna be so good. Um, but can you promote Nick's other social media? Yes, I can. I was just about to.
Speaking of
Jeez.
social, you still haven't followed me back, and I'm slightly hurt because I thought that we had like something special, a little bit of
Hey,
a friendship
there's
forming.
don't take it as I'll take care of it later. It's been a crazy week, man, in so many ways. Oh man, but yeah, I'll take care of that. So Nick, where can people find you on social medias?
All right, so I stream. Literally, Nixidimus1 is my username for everything. I stream on Twitch. I have a YouTube where I put devlogs and also like normal videos. I'm on Twitter. If you want to follow me there, I'm on Instagram. I barely ever use it, but I'm there if you want to follow me there. And I think that's about it. I have a Picardo, but I'd never use that thing. So
A what?
Picardo, it's like streaming, but for artists. But like it's been dead for like I don't even know how long now.
Okay, sure. So go follow him there, especially on the dead streaming service. Uh, look, man, what can I say? I'm stuck in the internet, but Nick, it has been very fun having you on. I'm super happy. I'm touched that you were here today. Thank you for sharing your game with us, and then to taking part in like getting it out there with the hashtag. It's just because that's a level of bravery that there's a lot of people that just don't have. Um, and yeah, it speaks. Well, I mean, it speaks very highly of your character, and that, and like you speak highly of your character. This guy's a good guy. He's good people. I don't know where that came from, but that's what I'm doing apparently. So once again, thank you very much for being on the show. And don't mind me as I cut over to a slightly different camera angle as I say my goodbyes to the rest of the audience. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for my new follows today. Thank you for everybody who hung out and took part in chat. Uh, like it's great to have you here. Your continued support is what keeps this show going. um this upcoming Wednesday we have the Sabby Life. She is a VR artist. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram under the same handle. She's going to be here on Wednesday. Oh crap, I forgot the time, but I feel like it's going to be like 5 o'clock Eastern. Whatever, I'll post about it on social media about it. Then I've got a bunch of other people throughout the rest of the week. This is going to be a crazy one. So you can find me on Twitter at Thom Clancy. Don't forget the H. It might be silent, but it's very important. And on Instagram at that Thom Clancy. So thank you all very much for coming to this week's episode of That Thom Clancy Show. I'm about to go sad marionette. So until Wednesday, I'll see you next time. And now I'm going to be a sad marionette. Haha, I've got to set a keybind for turning off the stream. Someday I'll do that, but it's not today. Do, 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 do.